Hello Malaysia, good morning. Welcome to Zaid Ibrahim Podcast. And today we have a special guest, a well-known journalist, Mr. Gunasegaran. Welcome, Guna.
Thank you.
Yeah. Guna has been in business of journalism, writing articles, stories about business, about politics, socio-political issues for the last 40 years. Everyone knows him. He's worked with some of the established names like Star, Business Times, Age. He has started his own portal, what you call Kinnibeats.
Yeah.
Been doing very well. Doing a lot of interesting articles about business in the country. A reference point for a lot of people interested to know about business in the country. Okay, good of you to come and chit-chat with me.
Most happy to be here.
Okay. Now, the first thing is that you've been in this line for so many years. Can you tell me what's the difference between being a journalist today and, say, 30 years ago?
I think when I first started as a journalist, I think this was in the late 1970s, it was all about print mainly.
Print, yes.
Yeah. And there was also TV and TV, quite a bit of TV, but it was mainly the print. And then gradually the change went from print towards digital media over a period of the next 20 years or so. I think Malaysia keenly started digital journalism in the country sometime in the 90s. So that changed the face of journalism completely. And as you know, that all print journalism is controlled by the Printing Presses and Publications Act, whereby the licensing of the print media is completely at the discretion of the Home Affairs Minister. So print was highly controlled. And by the time that digital arrived from the 90s onwards, and at that time, Mahathir, who was the PM at that time, was going big into the internet and digital era.
Yes.
And he made a promise at that point of time not to censor the internet.
Yes.
And so the only place where you could get free, unfettered journalism without the influence of big business and politicians was in the digital area. So that's been the sort of like an evolution. But now it's coming back to a situation where even the digital media, the internet media, is it's being controlled through the multimedia.
Yeah, it's controlled by MACC.
Yeah, MCMC.
MCMC, sorry.
Yeah.
No, I like MACC.
Yeah.
MCMC. But despite the guarantee in place, government still control using MCMC.
Yes, there is a greater attempt to control media by using provisions in the MCMC, where previously there was not that much. So I think that is a concerning thing for the media at this point of time. So because that can be used to control the media instead.
Yes, the government seems to be very kind of obsessed with this control. But they surely know that people don't really watch the mainstream media. Do they know that?
I think they do, but even the mainstream media has been forced to go digital, because in the face of falling circulation,
yes,
from as high as almost 300,000 copies in the heydays, the NST, and then it was overtaken by the Star. But even now, the Star has also seen a huge drop in circulation. Probably, you're talking about circulation in the tens of thousands these days, at the best. So even they had to move into the digital area.
Yeah. So that's why the government now wants to control digital media as well.
Yes.
Have they been very successful in that? or is it just they're targeting certain stories?
I think they are targeting certain stories, but they have. You see, if the MCMC finds that certain content is offensive, then it has got power to ask you to remove that content or face penalties. So that's the new area, and also
But that's applicable to the servers, right?
If you don't within Malaysia, I think they have the ability to remove the articles or to actually stop your outlet from actually broadcasting in Malaysia. But sometimes you can overcome that by using VPNs.
Yes.
But how many that will still restrict your circulation in Malaysia, by a lot.
So, would I be correct to say that the life of the journalist, especially the more serious one, doing investigative journalism, was still very tough in this country?
It's still very tough. It's not as bad as it was when you had to rely on print media, where a little letter from the Home Affairs Minister will actually cause a lot of upset in the newsroom at that time.
Okay.
So it's not that anymore, because everybody is in the digital space. So the Home Affairs strength has been has been reduced by that.
Yeah. Okay. Now that is kind of the background of the media and journalism, and now I want to go into more specific area of what you do. You do a lot of writing, mainly on business issues, right?
Mainly.
How many percent of your writings are social, political, and how much of it is business?
Okay, I try to. Currently, I write 2 columns a week whenever I'm not on leave, and that appears in Malaysia Kini. I put it up also on Kinibiz, which is a website that I started with Malaysia Kini, closed it, but just resurrected it. But it's not a fully functioning website. I put my columns on it as well. And then the news aggregator, Newswave, my articles appear on that as well. So just to sort of keep in the loop. So, but my main distribution channel, I will say, is Malaysia Kini.
Yeah.
So I'm a contributor to them. I don't work for them. I'm a columnist.
Yeah, but coming back to the things that you write.
Okay.
Do you write
it's roughly. I try to make it about 50-50. Politics 50%, and then business 50%. But usually the political environment is a lot hotter. So sometimes I find myself writing 2 columns a week on politics and nothing else.
Yeah, I think Malaysia is a good place for politics.
Yeah.
Because everything is political.
It just keeps happening now. Yeah.
Everything.
Yeah.
Almost.
Even business is politics.
Even business is politics. Yeah, I know. So you can't say you're. I mean, this is one place where you cannot say I don't want to get involved, because like it or not, we all are involved.
The interplay between politics and business is very substantial in Malaysia.
Yeah. Yes. Now, I would like to. The latest big story is about Petronas. I just want to share with you a bit the background. The Petronas, of course, doesn't say anything. Just quite once in a while they come out with statements.
Actually, they do say a lot. They have an annual report, and they do report quarterly.
Yeah.
And they disclose quite a lot, and it's quite close to statutory requirements if you were a listed company, for instance. But there are some things which they do not disclose, which makes it very difficult to analyze their profit and loss account properly.
Okay, but what I'm trying to say is that in respect of this issue, particularly with Sarawak, Petronas doesn't say much.
Yes, it's not.
And we hear Anwar talking about it. We can hear, or sometimes Sarawak, Abang Jo, or sometimes somebody from Sarawak, and then Zazalina from this side. why is there such a dearth of stories about? It's a very big story. It's a big issue.
Okay, let's take Sarawak first. No, if we are talking about that, Sarawak. I mean, they want to implement fully the clauses which were in the MA63 agreement. You know, so I'm not exactly certain about this, but they are saying that under that, they are entitled to a lot more of the oil and gas reserves than they are getting now. But the 1974 Petroleum Development Act vests all oil and gas reserves in the country with Petronas, and that's unambiguous. So you may be able to say more about that, actually.
Yeah. In my view, there's no ambiguity at all. It's just that. It's just that Sarawak, because of its political leverage, is trying to come up with a different narrative about the whole arrangement. I think there is no... I don't know about MA63 specifically saying they get more rights vis-a-vis oil and gas. I don't. I honestly don't.
Okay.
You know? So to them, to me, Sarawak is just using their political leverage to extract the maximum from Petronas, especially with regard to the current political situation.
But what is the meaning of the? I was just wondering, what is the meaning of the new company that they have set up, which is Petroleum Sarawak?
Yeah, Petros.
Yeah. So in this case, I have trouble understanding the whole concept. Okay, so it says that Petros is now the gas aggregator.
Yes.
But I looked up the term aggregator, and it's like it's something where you decide where the supply comes from and where you distribute. So I'm not sure what it means in the context of Petronas and Petros. So that is not at all clear. PM Anwar Ibrahim, meanwhile, has said that all of Petronas's contracts remain intact even with this new aggregator. So does it mean that this actually is in terms of Sarawak only, or does it mean that all of Petronas's gas supplies as well as its customers have to be approved, have to go through Petros? So that is the big question, or how much of it actually will go through Petros? Will it be just confined to Sarawak or not? So that's not very clear to me so far. No.
The lot is not clear, and that is because they talk in riddles sometimes.
Yeah.
So this is why I think more, although they keep saying, the government keeps saying, oh, everything's settled, but I don't see that. I don't see how it's settled, and therefore it is very odd that a matter of such importance to the nation, not just Sarawak, to the nation, is so opaque.
Yeah, I suppose because it's a political hot potato. I mean, as always, when you have insufficient information about these things, then people get suspicious, and they want to know what exactly is behind this whole thing.
Yes.
Is there some kind of a hidden agreement that we do not know about?
Yes.
So it leads to a lot of speculation, and then the government will tell you, don't speculate. How not to speculate when there's not enough information.
Yes.
So that is the trouble in this case. But to me, it looks like as of now, at this point of time, it may be a sort of like a foothold that Sarawak has made into the oil and gas business in Sarawak. But it does not seem very significant in terms of its impact on Petronas's profitability and operations.
You don't think so?
At the moment, it's not. And I think the Petronas CEO, he said recently, in reply to some of the speculations in this area, that Petronas's contraction of margins is not due to Petros.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's because of what?
he's saying that there is competition internationally. So, which brings us to the second part of it. But do you want to say more about Petros first then?
No. As far as I don't know enough other than the legal side of it, which is all sometimes theoretical. I mean, you say this is your view. I say this is my view. In my view, whatever Sarawak wants to do, it cannot impinge on the rights of Petronas. So it must be by consent of Petronas. It must be by a contractual arrangement of some sort. But I don't know to what extent.
You're on record as saying that it is very clear that from the legal point of view, that everything is vested with Petronas as far as oil and gas reserves of the country are concerned.
Of course, Sarawak can. I think they won a case in the court on regard to the sales tax on petroleum products. They can impose that whatever percent of SST, which has brought them a lot of money, which other states, Sarawak, Kelantan, Terengganu, or the other, do not have that authority.
Oh, don't they have the authority to impose sales tax? They don't.
Because that power, the authority given to Sarawak was because of their own law, which was in existence, always there, never repealed. So the PDA, I think, did not, in a way, impact on that.
Okay.
But that was a decision of the High Court. It was never appealed. Petronas never appealed. The government never appealed. And I'm sure if they had appealed, the outcome may be different. Now, so this is again a political bargaining thing.
Strange that they didn't appeal that. Huh?
They didn't appeal. The High Court judge ruled that, this is Sarawak's exclusive right to charge to 5% or whatever. And Petronas had to pay a few million dollars.
Unless whatever agreement that they came to supersedes this the High Court decision. No?
Which agreement?
The agreement with whatever the gas aggregator agreement.
No, that was nothing to do with the gas aggregator. This is just a product under the sales tax law of Sarawak. There, whatever tax or whatever transactions on oil and gas within the state, they can impose sales tax. Yeah, so that is what the court says. Oh yes, they can. But Petronas never appealed that, and the government, federal, didn't appeal. And I think that was already a politics there, I think.
I see. Okay.
So there's so much that we are not sure of what the future will hold with regard to oil and gas in Sarawak. But the one feature, Guna, that I see in this country is the lack of transparency, not just in Petros, but in almost all the big deals in this country.
Yeah.
Can you explain the background? Why is it so?
Okay.
Why is this obsession with
just before we go on to that, there's another aspect to Petronas, which is worth discussing. So the Petronas's business is international now. I mean, it didn't always used to be international, but when Mahathir became PM, he wanted Petronas to expand internationally.
Yes.
So, but what happens then?
He wanted MAS to go internationally too.
Yeah.
It's a global map.
Yeah. So you've got your local operations and your international operations, and they operate differently between local and international. In local operations, they are the owners of the assets. So the oil companies like Shell, Exxon, and others are contractors to Petronas.
Yeah.
And in return, the contractors get a percentage of the profit, a percentage of the revenue after deducting the cost of extraction in terms of so many barrels of oil equivalent.
Yes.
So that is the case locally. Internationally, Petronas is no different from the other oil agents. They are contractors.
They are contractors. Yeah.
They are contractors.
They're not owners of the.
Yeah. So, which means their margins, their local margins, can be perhaps 2 or 3 times greater than their international margins. Here, they own the oil. And if it is a Petronas subsidiary which is actually undertaking the exploration, their margins are even higher. So that's a difference. So when Petronas makes a comparison with the international oil majors, they are not comparing like with like. So if the international companies' margins are coming down, Petronas's margins need not come down as much. So my question is, why is Petronas's margin so low when you take these into account? Its margins are just basically around the margins of the oil majors. But it should be a lot higher because a lot of its oil and gas reserves are in Malaysia and they incur a much higher margin. So unless they give their margins, say, for local operations and then the margins for the international operations, then we will not be able to tell how they are doing internationally.
Yeah.
So since their margins are now about the same as that of international companies, the only conclusion I can come to from that is that their international operations are not doing so well. So we need to have an explanation as to why that is so. Yeah, I think they have had problems, say, in Canada, where they had problems in terms of rolling out the gas production because of objections from the indigenous people there. So that was a problem, and they, in the past, I know that they have made a lot of provisions for that. So, but exactly how much is provided for and so on is not disclosed publicly, and we don't have a good idea of whether the situation has since improved a lot. They closed down a substantial part of their Sudan operations and sold it off and things like that. So what kind of money were they making in Sudan or in the other areas that they were operating? So that's a very opaque area now. So I'm sure their counter to not disclosing is that it will affect competition. You know, they are giving out competitive information. But I don't think that is necessarily a good argument. At least you could say perhaps this is the margin for local operations and this is the margin for international operations. And then you could at least qualitatively say what are the challenges and problems you have in the international area and what you're doing about it and where are the main problem areas and why. So that kind of disclosure is not there. So although they make a lot they disclose a lot of information which is statutorily adequate if you are a listed company, these kind of things are not disclosed, and I think they should be disclosed as a national oil company. Otherwise, you can potentially have a lot of abuse taking place with no one knowing anything about it.
Yeah.
You can't hide behind a veil of secrecy. You are responsible for developing the oil and gas resources.
But secrecy is our second nature.
Yeah. Yes.
Do you know that Petronas, so only the Prime Minister knows what's going on?
Yeah.
I don't think the Cabinet knows, unless the Prime Minister decides to tell.
Yeah. Under the Act, I think they report directly to the Prime Minister.
Yeah, because that's how it was conceived in the beginning. Because of, you remember the scandal in Indonesia, Pertamina had a big problem with...
Petrobras had a big problem. Brazil.
Yeah, Brazil. So they felt that if you trust everything to the Prime Minister, you'll be safe. But how do you know?
I think Norway's Statoil has got a lot more disclosure.
Yes.
So that is the model that we should seek to emulate. And then Norway has set up, actually, based on the oil and gas wealth, they have set up a sovereign fund, which is one of the largest sovereign funds in the world. From that. Yeah. And we had the ability to do that, and we missed the opportunity, but it's still not too late to set up a sovereign fund, which is meant to preserve the wealth of the oil for future generations.
Yeah, but the sovereign fund, Khazanah is a sovereign fund.
But
that doesn't prevent the Prime Minister from telling them what to do.
So that's the thing.
The structure, to me,
it's got to be firewalled now in this case.
No, it has to be a change of culture.
Yeah.
You see, if politics is to override everything else, then you can put any structure, any framework. It's not going to work because the overriding factor is political interest.
Yeah.
And if the country wants to keep that model, I think we can't change very much.
Yeah.
You know? I mean, if you
yeah.
look at the other, you have written yourself about the airport privatization.
Yeah.
I read your article, excellent, about so many aspects of it. We don't really know why.
Yeah.
And that is Khazanah involved. That's EPF involved. you know?
Yes. Two large state-controlled funds were involved in that.
Yeah.
And that deal was very strange, because, I mean, what are you talking about there, I mean, you're talking about bringing in a new airport operator who effectively will own 25% of MHB post the takeover. So and they are associated to BlackRock.
Yes.
And Malaysia Airports has actually done very well in the past as an airport operator. In fact, without any foreign help, they have been in the top 10. So the first thing you should do is to look at improving your own local management of the airport even before you look at others.
Yeah.
And GIP, which is the fund which is taking a 25% stake, they operate Heathrow and Sydney and some of the other airports. And it's not as if any of these airports are in the top 10, whereas MHB has been in the top 10 before. So they are like a 40 and 50 the ranking. So what is so special about them that you have to take them?
No, that is one thing. But I also don't understand why you take BlackRock.
Yeah.
I mean, these are not another company. It's not just an ordinary hedge fund, You see, this is the fund that the American politicians use. This is the company. Besides BlackRock, there are a few others, of course. These are political interests of America is involved. And that is why when you talk about Ukraine, they already said that BlackRock is going to own half of Ukraine if they won the war. Of course, they're not going to win the war. But so these are the issues that I think we should be concerned with, is the nature of the relationship between BlackRock and Congress and the American system.
I think a huge part of the BlackRock business, to be fair, will be normal fund management. They are the largest fund manager in the world. They manage more than $11 trillion US. So this is actually a very small thing for them. It's minuscule in their overall range of operations. And they have some parts of the fund which act in a hedge fund-like manner, which want quick gains, and who they operate these for some of their more some of their clientele who can bear very high risk. So I think that is the part of the operation which has come into the airport management for MAHB. So, but the thing is, I mean, even if you use them, you have to see what is the value that they can bring to the table. So, and my question is from a governance point of view, okay, you have investors who have invested heavily in MAHB for the long term. So now you say that the value is $11, but your investment advisor for that particular says it is unfair, although it is reasonable. It's reasonable because there's no other offer on the table.
Yeah.
But why don't you structure this thing in such a way such that MAHB can continue to be listed, and those who do not want to accept the offer can remain in the company? So, I mean, since EPF and Khazanah are involved in this thing, then you should look to encourage people to have a listed vehicle in Malaysia for their airport operations. So that will give you a better spread of investors, and it will also ensure that there is proper disclosure as far as your airport operations are concerned. Now it's a wall. You do not know what will be happening in MHB. Look at what happened to Mars after it was taken private. You
see, once you take it private, in the context of Malaysia especially, where politicians are involved in the decision making, then there's nothing that you'll know.
You operate behind a veil of secrecy.
And then 10 years from now, you will say, oh, we've suffered some losses. Yeah, we need some bailout. And the history repeats itself.
So, and then you don't know about other things such as, okay, how much are they being paid as management fees? I mean, surely, they are not relying on increasing the value alone. So that's another part. So that is not disclosed, and there is no indication of what is the management fees. Is it based on turnover? Is it based on profit? What is the criteria for management fees?
But this is the irony of it. I remember when they were criticizing Mahathir privatizing the airplane. Now we're the same people are privatizing airports.
Yeah.
So this is Malaysia going in circles, Okay, we're going to come to the last part of this chat. This is more, I'm concerned with the institutional checks. We always talk about institutional check and balance.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm very skeptical, Paulo. I don't believe there is any check and balance. Not enough of it. Because, as I said, because politics pervades everything.
Yeah.
Now, surely it will come a time when business will suffer from this. I mean, today we can say we have 4% growth or whatever GDP. We can say investment so much. But for so long as there is no proper checks between business, politics, and the enforcers, then it's not going to be good for the country. Now, how do we compare? Okay, let me ask you this. There are other countries that has got strong political play as well, but somehow they seems to be getting stronger than us.
Right. The problem of institutional involvement in business will always be there.
Yeah.
Every country has got that. Yeah. Every country has got that because the institutional funds are the ones that invest the most in the stock market. The largest single stock market investor in Malaysia is EPF. And then it's probably followed by PNB there.
PNB, yeah.
The largest investor in the stock market in Singapore will probably be Temasek and the Singapore Government Investment Corp. It's the same thing. But the thing is to draw a clear line between politics, government, and business. So in Singapore, you have government-owned companies whose values are far higher than ours. I mean, like SIA, like DBS and things like that. The major shareholder in these companies is the government. But what they do is they do not interfere in the running of these companies. These companies act as private companies, and they are not required to do the government's bidding. You do what is necessary to make the company profitable and run in a professional
manner. I just stop you there for a while. Now, these people who are running these companies, whether in Singapore or even in China, China has a lot of government-controlled companies as well in terms of. But why is it that they are able to be independent in that context, and that we, with the same model, somehow seems to be paying more obedience to the masters?
I think our politicians have been spoiled. They have always had this thing about resorting to government-owned companies to bail them out whenever there is a problem. I mean, it started from BMF, in those days. I think if you look at Bumiputera Malaysia Finance, such a financing of property development and purchases in Hong Kong cannot be done without political approval.
Sure.
So it was a deal which was gone wrong, and so subsequently Petronas was used to bail it out. So in like manner, you have used EPF in the past to, for instance, take up Time.com offers. EPF has been used to bolster up the market. So those kind of things have been done in the past, and those should not be done. They should be professional decisions. So the government at some time, at some point in time, they have to be willing to give up this crutch that they depend on for the benefit of the nation. So you give this up, and you let these companies be run on a private sector basis. So it's okay for the government to own these companies, because I mean, not enough private sector people will be able to take over all of these companies.
Yeah, sure. I think it's a given that the
yeah.
government will own a lot of this.
Yeah.
The very, pivotal, very strong, very strategic companies.
Yeah.
I'm sure we cannot change that. But how do we change this culture of obedience to the extent that it affects performance? I mean, how do we change that? I mean, like I said, Singapore has the same civil service system.
I think the public tried to change that by voting in a new government, but unfortunately, it has descended again. So the only way that you can make government change, I suppose, is through public pressure and eventually through the polls. So
could it be cultural issue as well? Let me develop this argument further. I think generally, as you know, I think 89 or 90% of our civil service are Malays. Okay? The political parties controlling the major levers of power are Malays. The rulers are Malays. Okay? Could it be that because there's only one group of people, ethnic group, that manages all these key issues, there's a tendency to be more compliant as opposed to being more objective, professional?
I think say opening up the government to more non-Malays will help because it will bring about a diversity of opinion. But I think the crux of the problem is non-racial in the sense that you need better governance. Whoever is there, if the governance improves, then the whole thing will improve. But I don't see why there shouldn't be more non-Malays in the top echelons of government. I mean, perhaps.
But why is that? Why is it that we're not having that?
Because
that's why I'm asking you.
Because of political reasons. Because of UMNO.
Well, today is not UMNO. Today is Anwar.
But it still seems to be very much UMNO, which UMNO's agenda, which is being promoted by this government. So although Pakatan Harapan has got 3 times.
Why is the AP so quiet? Yeah. Come on. Those days, they were attacking Mahathir non-stop.
Because they are in government, that's the difference. If you are in opposition, you can say something.
So, I don't know. Sometimes I think, nothing will change in this country. It doesn't matter who comes to power. It's just that the same arrangement, it just suits the class that is ruling the country.
I've written this before, but I think maybe.
What did you say?
What I said at that time was that the culture of UMNO is still very much there because all the major players.
But UMNO is not in control now.
Yeah, but
UMNO is not in control now.
They all came from UMNO in the past. All of them came from UMNO.
Oh yeah, but if that's your argument, so then it will never change because past was from UMNO too.
Won't. I think like you see, once you go below the age of 50, then the UMNO hold is no longer there. So there's a new generation. I think, say for instance, if you take someone as an example, say Rafizi Ramli in PKR, I don't think he was ever an UMNO member. So in a similar vein, all the younger politicians now may not have been part of UMNO before, so they have not been corrupted, so to speak, in UMNO's ways. So perhaps it's not changing now because Anwar was pretty much an UMNO man, and right now he's behaving very much like UMNO. He's not behaving like a PKR person; he's behaving like an UMNO person.
So what makes you think Rafizi will be different? He is number 2 to Anwar.
Well,
if he wants to be number 1, don't you think he has to conform to Anwar's wishes?
Not necessarily so, because I mean, at some point of time, the young Turks will have to be prepared to take over, and they can only take over if they are prepared to challenge the current hierarchy. So, I mean, if Anwar is deviating so much from the PKR ideology, then it's time that somebody stood against him, not necessarily Rafizi, but anyone from PKR who commands some amount of respect.
Okay. I just want to be just to provoke you a bit. I know you don't like UMNO from what you have said. But what about PAS? Can you live with PAS?
I think PAS is in some ways acting a lot like UMNO, so much so that they have they seem to have accepted the corrupt way of running things. And Hadi.
Why do you say that?
Well, Hadi has said it is okay for corruption to take place, and that corruption is not against Islam. In some ways, he has said that,
I don't think you should take that seriously. I mean, Japanese leaders have said the same thing in a different way. Japanese leaders have said that, if it's a gift, it's a commission for work done, then it is not corruption. I mean, as you can see today, even under the present regime, corruption varies from who does it to whom.
Okay, all right. Look at it another way now. No?
But Hadi, I want to come back to Hadi. Hadi is not PAS. Hadi is a president.
Yes, he's a president, but looks like if a change towards non-Muslims' perception of Islam is to be changed, probably Hadi being there is an impediment. That's one.
Yeah, but what if he steps down? I'm just saying.
If he steps down, there may be more acceptance, but it may not be immediate because people will want to watch and see what is PAS's narrative. So PAS's narrative has been pretty much that of UMNO, in the past. So and that is the same narrative that is going on. It is not talking about equality for all.
Yes.
So yeah. If it is, and if it has convinced the public that, then it might. But I think although the non-Malay political power will continue to reduce in future, in terms of swing votes, you cannot deny its power because if the Malay vote is, say, split any way, any reasonable way that you want to between the two parties, the party who wins will still have to get sufficient amount of non-Malay votes. So the swing votes are there.
I think the non-Malays not only hold a very important card of the swing votes. I think they control the country already. You don't think so? Don't you think that business controls the country?
That is true only to some extent, because you are underestimating the power of the government-linked companies. All right. So if you look at the power in the country, I don't think any non-Malay group comes anywhere near PNB, which owns 300 over billion in assets. And then if you break down EPF's holdings, all right,
okay.
So 70% of EPF is Bhumiputra. Yeah. Break down 1 over trillion into 70% Bhumiputra. Yeah. So the amount of control of companies at the top controlled by Bhumiputras far exceeds that of the Malays. At the entrepreneur level, yes, I agree with you. The Chinese are the main entrepreneurs in the country.
I want to stop you there. Okay, so on paper, nominally, PNB controls all these assets.
Not only that, they also control management. I mean, for me, I consider the best managed bank in the country as Malayan Banking, and it is a Malay-owned and run bank. So not only that.
But besides Maybank, okay, give
I
me
think
another
one major achievement that this country.
Give me another one besides Maybank.
RHB.
Also, you consider that Malay managed?
Yes, it is Malay managed and owned.
M-Bank you would consider Malay?
M-Bank as well. M-Bank as well. Okay. So there is talent within the Malay community, as shown by the running of Malayan Banking and the running of Petronas in the older days, especially, But so far there is lack of entrepreneurial talent within the Malays. So that would maybe take even more time, because I mean, the Chinese entered this country almost as an entrepreneurial class, so they have they are centuries ahead of the rest of us.
Yeah. Yes. Okay. Thank you very much, Guna. I think we've had
Welcome.
some 45 minutes or so chat. I think this is just good. But there are other issues I would like to talk to you, but maybe later.
Yeah, sure, no problem.
Especially,
Mm.
I want to talk to you more about the politics of ASEAN, in the sense that, the relationship between us and other countries.
Mhm.
Are we benefiting from it? How do we make better the issue of foreign workers?
Sure, no problem.
Yeah,
Mm.
because I think it's not just domestic policies decides a lot of things. There's a lot of things that happens in the region, China, for example. So perhaps maybe a next subject that I would like to talk to you would be about that. How do we deal with this kind of influences? Indonesia, it's a big country,
Yeah.
big power,
Mm.
200 million. And although the Malays like to think Indonesia is a Malay country, they're not. So things like that, and Vietnam. I find Vietnam an awesome
Yeah.
country now.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of things we can talk about. Anyway, thank you very much for
Okay, thank
spending
you.
time with me.
Thank you for having me.
I hope we can have another chat maybe next month or so.
Sure, no problem.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks.